Hey, everybody. This is episode 54 of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata over here at Black Hollywood Live. We got some in-studio guests. Me and Regina Hall talked about some hair, and I talked with Peterloo's Mike Lee. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into Black Hollywood Live, the world's first digital broadcast network devoted entirely to urban entertainment and pop culture. Tune in right now.
Hello, everybody. This is your girl, Carla Renata, a.k.a. the Curvy Critic. This is episode 54. Oh, my God, 54 of the Curvy Critic here at Black Hollywood Live. We have so much to cover, so I don't want to waste one more second running my mouth. Let me introduce who I have in studio with me. First and foremost is my special guest co-host, Miss Jasmine Simpkins from Hip Hollywood.
Hi, I don't think people still raise the roof, but
raise the roof. Hey.
I feel like it's appropriate to do so.
And sitting right next to her is my good friend, 8-time Emmy nominee. Feels so good to say that. Kevin Spirtas.
Whoop. Raise the roof. Hey, gang. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, of course. So let me just tell y'all how I know each one of y'all. So me and Jazz belong to the same Film Critics Association, African American Film Critics Association, and that's how I met her. And she's been here hosting the show with me before, which she was fantabulous.
Thank you.
And then Kevin and I actually grew up together in St. Louis, Missouri.
I heard, and you guys worked at a theme park together.
We did. Six Flags over Mid-America.
And we were both finalists for the Dinah Shore Show Stairway to Stardom.
Yeah, Dinah Shore Stairway to Stardom. And quick little side note, he won.
Oh.
I was like the runner-up. He won.
She was good,
and
though.
he came to California, and then he ended up getting a chorus line as a result of that.
Wow.
Like, he got his first Broadway show. I'm so proud of him. Like, I could brag on him all day long.
Aww.
Listen, this face, I know it took you places, and it's still taking you places, so.
Well, I'm happy with the way the molecules were arranged, but...
The molecules. You're so silly.
Thank you, Carla.
And then I just want to give a shout out to my people in the chat room who are always there and support me, Michael B. and Yasna. What's up, y'all? I'm so glad that you have joined us again. You're going to love this show today, honey. We're about to get it in, and we're going to have a good time. So, hello. I'm like, who is that talking? It would be my iPad. Sorry about that, y'all. So... First up is an interview I did with Mike Leigh. He's the director of a film called Peterloo. And the thing about Peterloo that was really interesting to me is that it covers this whole massacre situation that happened in history in the UK, but it's the circumstances that surrounded it are not that different than what's happening right now with the U.S. immigration situation and Brexit over in England. It's the elitist government fighting against the reformers or the laborers. It's the same situation. I'm like, how many times does history have to repeat itself?
Yeah.
So me and Mike talked about that for a second. So I want y'all to take a listen and hear what he had to say.
Let's listen up.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by period films, especially historically based period films. But what I am really more fascinated about is the fact that I know that you film a lot using improvisation for your scripts. Was this script using improvisation as well?
Yes.
Ah.
Made the same way as all my other films. I mean, that's just how I work. I mean, I've worked like that since the mid-1960s. So for me, it's just a natural way of working. You know, it's about collaborating with actors, taking actors seriously as creative contributors in their own right. I mean, I am a writer, and the writing quality I hope is there in my movies. But I don't want to sit in a room constructing things in my head. Filmmaking is all about being there and about pulling together all sorts of stuff, you know. So it's about collaborating with actors. I mean, we always prepare for about half a year or so before we start shooting, which we did with this film. But it's about being out there on location and creating the action and the dialogue and everything else by being there and scripting through rehearsal. It's just a natural way of working. But make no mistake about it, for the most part, what you see on the screen in my films is very precise. It's scripted. It comes out of improvisation.
Yeah.
But it's not scripted separately and given out on bits of paper. It's scripted by rehearsal, in the rehearsal.
I read that about you and I was like, oh, that's the first thing I wanted to ask you because I was really fascinated by that. So I noticed that in the beginning it was very muted grays and then it gradually became more and more color up until the end where it was just bright technicolor almost. But the thing that was fascinating to me when it was more of the muted gray in the first third of the film is that one song soldier wearing the red. Was that intentional for him to be the only person wearing bright colors at that juncture in the film?
Yeah, I mean, it was intentional. And of course, the point is that those guys, that's all, they came back from the war impoverished. They carried on wearing their uniforms because that's all they had, you know, basically. And there's a sort of terrible irony in this guy wearing this bright red military jacket when everybody else is wearing a drab workaday clothes. There's one scene where you see another guy wearing them.
Yes.
Those ideas present themselves from the historical background. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you see that colour progression.
I did see that.
But here's the interesting thing. The very end of the film, the parapenultimate scene, 2 scenes from the end, is the Prince Regent with his mistress in his palace, in the Royal Pavilion at Brighton.
Yes.
Which is kind of colourful.
It was very colourful.
Then you see the journalists in the post-traumatic condition of them, after the aftermath of them, which is kind of monochromatic. And then finally, you see the funeral, which we shot on the famous Saddleworth Moor, where that famous kids were murdered, on a very wet and grey Lancashire day, you know, and it's completely grey and monochromatic, and that's how it ends.
I love when I get to discover those types of things cinematically, because I think that drives the story in a very non-linear, silent type of way, and that's always really fascinating and wonderful when I see that in filmmaking.
And of course it's subliminal.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing that stuck out to me is there's a quote that one of the characters said: "When the greed of our government is greater than the needs of the people, the deterioration of our nation is inevitable. They force the prices up, the government lives well, their pockets get fat, and the people that are the laborers live a little less lovely." It was not lost on me that the parallels between that time and now, even in England with Brexit and here with the Trump administration, the parallels were fascinating. It was like, oh my God, why does history keep repeating itself?
You know what? We started preparing this film at the beginning of 2014. We started researching it, and we found ourselves fairly soon, almost on a daily basis, saying, you know what, this is getting more and more relevant. What we couldn't have anticipated in 2014 was 2016. What we couldn't have anticipated that by 2019 that things would have fallen apart at the seams. Here we know about. I mean, I was in Italy doing the press for this last week, and there they've got the rise of the far right, and it's falling apart at the seams. In the UK, it's completely disintegrated, unprecedented way, and it's totally unnecessary, totally eccentric, mad, irresponsible, unnecessary, and it's a function, as it was here, of paranoia, xenophobia, ignorance. That's the terrible tragedy when you're looking at Peterloo. Peterloo is about democracy. Here we're talking about democracy, but it's democracy gone wrong, you know.
Yes, the reformers versus the elite. The king, when he made that statement about, I know them better than they know themselves. No, you don't, because you're not living that kind of life.
Absolutely.
How do you know them better than they know themselves?
Totally.
Did you ever come from that type of life? I doubt it. The lineage with royalty is usually passed down. I don't know any royal that was a pauper before they were a royal. Correct. You know. So when he said that, I was like, really, sir? I don't think so.
Correct.
It just was so, it was like you said, it was so relevant. And I'm always moved and mind boggled all at the same time when a film is made so far in advance, like you said, of the actual situation at hand, that you go, like I said earlier, why is history repeating itself? There was one moment where they called the king mad. I'm like, oh yeah, so the king is mad in this situation. Our president is crazy. This is very interesting.
Trump is mad. I mean, whichever way you look at it.
Oh, please, that's a whole nother conversation. Do you find yourself gravitating toward period pieces, or do you like comedy, or what's your favorite genre to work in?
You've seen a number of my films, presumably.
Yes, sir.
What I like to do is, within the narrow genre of what I do, come round to my place for a meal. I'm not going to dish up the same dish every time you come.
Well, I like that analogy.
It's as simple as that, really. So, I mean, perhaps a more useful answer to the question is that even in Peterloo, there is humour. I'm in the business of doing people in a way that are real, and real gives you complexity, us with all our faults and our foibles and our virtues and our negatives and funny and sad, and it's all rolled into one.
So the phrase, give me liberty or give me death, we know what it meant to those people during that time in history, but what does that mean to you right now?
We're talking about what we aspire to, what things that are important, things that make life worth living.
What else do you have in the burners that you're working on right now?
I have no answer to that question, partly because of the way that I work. Until I know how much money I've got, I can't decide what canvas to paint. And at the moment, we're just looking for the bread, so I can't... So
I'm muting you guys.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leigh,
It's a great
for
pleasure.
taking
Thank
time
you.
and speaking to me. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was a great little interview that I did with Mike Leigh, and I was telling y'all off camera that he was fascinated at the fact that my name or my moniker or my brand is the Curvy Critic. He started interviewing me when we started the interview. I'm like, oh, so you're gonna interview me? Okay, we can do that. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you know.
It was pure comedy, but he was very gracious, and he sat down with me and we had our little conversation. And Peterloo is actually a really good film. So it opens this week. And it's produced by Amazon Studios, so you guys check that one out. It is called Peterloo, directed by Mike Leigh. And now over to our special in-studio guest, my boy, Keven Spirtas.
Hi, darling.
So let me just tell y'all how I know Mr. Keven Spirtas. Keven Spirtas and I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri together.
We did.
And we used to work at a theme park right outside of St. Louis in Eureka, Missouri. Eureka, Missouri, yeah, that's a town. Called Six Flags Over Mid-America, and it was me, him, and two other people that we worked with, and we would carpool to the shows every weekend.
A half hour there and back. So it was an hour a day spent in the car.
Yeah, we had shenanigans, but we had the time of our lives. We had such a great time. But the reason Keven is here today is not because he's my good friend and he just wants to hang out with me because I'm cute.
And curvy.
and curvy.
And curvy.
He's hanging out with me today because he is nominated. 8 nominations. I get so full every time I say it. My good friend Keven Spirtas, I'm about to cry. My good friend Keven Spirtas, I'm about to cry. My good friend Keven Spirtas is nominated for 8 Emmy nominations for his web series After Forever, including one for Best Actor. I'm so proud of you. So
dope.
for people that are listening to my show that have no clue what After Forever is, just tell them what it is and where they can find it.
After Forever is a story about 2 gay men in their mid-50s, Brian and Jason, who have everything. They have great love, they have great friends, great jobs, great apartment, all in New York City, until one day they don't. And the story is, the one-liner is a story about love, loss, and new beginnings. It's gay thematic and story, but it's about loss. So it's a universal theme, and there is loss between one of the two of them. And it's on Amazon Prime, and it's 8 episodes, short form. The episodes approximately about 11 minutes each, and it's a ride. It's a crazy ride. My co-creator, co-writer, co-producer, Michael Slade, an alumni from Days of Our Lives. He was a writer.
As are you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr.
Dr.
Craig Wesley.
Oh, and this is the thing. The thing that I loved about you on Days of Our Lives is that your better half or your second half on the show was Patrika Darbo.
Yes.
And she was curvy too. I loved that.
Yeah,
Days of Our Lives was ahead of their time with that.
We became daytime's -- non-conventional couple.
I loved that.
Yeah, and we had fun, and we were conniving, and we were silly, and we were dastardly. And you have to say it like dastardly. But I had met Michael Slade in New York City. I had never met him before because on daytime they keep the writers away from the actors. And what we had done was we picked up a conversation at the gym. We're talking about what are you doing now and what would you like to do. And the common through line of the story of our conversation was that we wanted to create content about gay men in their mid-50s, early 50s, mid-50s, because in the creative world, they are off of the canvas. There's nowhere to be found. And that we both had this, urging and yearning to do that. And I said, I don't see any parts coming down the pike with my name on it, so let's do something. And we created After Forever. And some of the story is told from his experience, and some of the story is told from my experience. We got Best Digital Series, Best Writing, Best Directing, Best Acting. Myself, lead actor, myself and Mitchell Anderson, who you may remember from Doogie Howser and Party of Five. He's retired now. And
he brought him out of retirement.
I did. And my good friend out of retirement is up against me as Best Actor, but he deserves it. He's so good in this show. He's so awesome. Great. Katie Huffman from Broadway's Producers. and Erin Cherry are both up for Best Supporting Actress.
Nice.
And Anita Gillette, who played Miss Mona in Moonstruck, she is up for Best Guest Artist.
And
That's
so,
awesome.
and so for y'all, so Kevin had to remind me about this earlier. So if for those of you listening that don't know who Miss Mona is, she was the side chick of Cher's daddy. She was Cher's daddy's side chick in Moonstruck.
Yes.
That's the best way for me to describe it. She had on
Before
that red,
side chicks were a thing, yeah.
She had that red dress, and her moons were struck up to the ceiling.
Oh,
in that
they
dress.
were,
Yeah,
and she
it was-
talks about it too. She says, "My moon," Anyway, but she plays my mother-in-law in this story, and she is heartbreaking, just heartbreaking.
How did you come up with the title? I love that. I love After Forever.
Thank you. Michael and I both were talking about the story and, what happens to love when someone dies. It never ends. A relationship, basically, whether it's good or bad, it's a relationship. And when someone's gone, they're still having, a relationship. Love never dies. And it became about, what's the opposite of happily ever after? After forever. And we both kind of agreed on that. And, after forever is how long love lasts.
I like
I love
that,
that.
Kevin.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I
Look
like
at
that.
you being all deep.
I know. You took it all the way to the bottom of the ocean and came back. Yes. I
So
love
in the
it.
chat room, Michael B wants to know, what was the process in getting your series launched?
Oh, gosh. Bravery. In this world now, you have an iPhone. You have people who have access to studio equipment. You have people who are able to lend you their home as a set or an office. We had an incredible amount of people who were moved by the story, and I just sort of grabbed it like a dog with a bone. I did not let go. I raised a lot of money for these 8 episodes, and I just saw the vision, and Michael saw the vision, and we just did it. We put it on Amazon Prime ourselves. It's not owned by Amazon Prime, so and it's you can see it on Amazon Prime in the UK and the USA.
So Yasna, I'm glad you brought that up, because Yasna says she'll look for the show in Amazon. Not always Amazon Latin America has the same catalog as US Amazon.
Right, so you can go to bingenetworks.tv and
good.
type in After Forever, and you can see the show worldwide.
Oh, good.
nice.
And that's a pay-per-view.
Good, because here at AfterBuzz TV and Black Hollywood Live, this streams all over the world, not just here in America. Everybody all over the world sees it, so that's good to know.
Black Hollywood
Yeah.
Live's got it down.
You are hilarious. I cannot with you.
And people don't know I'm a goofball, but that,
You are so silly. But we've known each other for years,
I
so
know.
this is just how we roll.
That's
just
right.
crazy.
I love it.
So before Kevin's going to stay here and talk with us about some more movies, because I gave him the option of bouncing out or hanging with us, and he wanted
I
to
want
hang.
to stay with
he
these
wanted to
lovely
hang with the
ladies.
two
Come on.
He's hanging.
I got Carla and Jasmine.
Yes,
right
Jazz and Carla. Hey, and Kevin in the hook. His
Hook.
house. So the next interview that we have coming up, I would have loved to have had Regina Hall here because she's hilarious.
Hilarious.
So Taylor to Regina's. I've had Regina King earlier this year to talk to her about If Beale Street Could Talk. And this week, we're talking to Regina Hall about Little. And Little is a film that's coming out on April 12th by NBC Universal. It stars Masai Martin from Blackish, Issa Rae from
Insecure.
Insecure, thank you. And my girl Regina Hall, who just won. She was the first African-American woman to win the Best Actress Award at the New York Film Critics earlier this year, which was huge.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe in the 80-year history they'd never had a black person win that award. That's a whole nother conversation. But, really. But listen to this conversation that we had with Regina Hall, and I'm going to talk to you about what she was doing after the interview.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Regina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Finally, we get to speak. I'm so excited.
I know.
If you had to create a version of Homegirl, what would your version of Homegirl look and sound like?
I might want Sade for my homegirl. She could sing like Wake Up. Her voice is really soothing to me. And I might need something a little extra too. Oh, maybe I'd have Michelle Obama talking to me. I don't know. There's a lot of great, I don't know. Who would you do?
Who would I do? It'd probably be Jill Scott.
Oh, and I love Jill Scott. You know what? Maybe I should get Jill to just start calling in the morning.
If you got it like that, then I suggest doing it.
Jill would be like, Regina, I am not calling you every morning.
Flip it it back around to some more serious topics in little. When I was in school, I was a military brat, so I was bullied all the time. Were you ever bullied?
You know, I don't want to say to that degree. I think I had normal, like, like maybe grade school. I remember my mom being like, well, go fight. Because we didn't have cyberbullying. It was like a bully at school. You'd get in a fight, and then they'd be like, oh, okay. And then it was kind of over. I mean, so, like, I had brothers, and I just remember it being different than now, because it wasn't,
Yeah, it's very different. The internet and computers.
Yeah, it's very different. It wasn't like this kind of cyberbullying, which seems like a lot more emotionally abusive, whereas bullying is difficult no matter what. And it's so hard. I have a niece who went through it, and it's so incredibly damaging. And I don't think kids at that age realize how cruel and damaging and toxic it is.
Absolutely. Congratulations on your New York Critic Award and being the first woman of color to grab that. I was so excited for you. You would have thought I'd won it, child.
Oh, thank you. I was so incredibly excited, too. And it was shocking that, in 83 years, there hadn't been one. It was such a nice event. And with Regina, who was also, who won for Beale Street, it was quite an honor. And the New York Times, they have been, they've been so supportive, and I was so grateful. They were supportive of the movie, and I was really touched and shocked and like thrilled.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve every bit of shine that you are getting. You really, really do. I looked at this film and I thought it was like a combination of like if Working Girl met Big and then met Freaky Friday. That was the other one.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I had a boss when I was a publicist. She had her moments. I was wondering if you'd ever worked for somebody that you just would wake up some days and you'd be like, I just want to pop you into the next millennium.
I can't imagine working for Jordan. Obviously, Jordan was extreme because it's a comedy, and you really needed to see her be that terrible so that you would understand why she had to go little. Man, a rough boss is a rough boss.
So when was the last time you remember having that feeling of childlike optimism before life just skeeted it right out of you? Or do you still have that childlike optimism?
I will say I think I have it in certain areas. You know what I mean? Like in certain areas of my life, I have it, and in certain areas, I'm like, I'm a lot more pessimistic because of, my experiences. But, I am reminded when I'm around children of that feeling, that innocent. Life hasn't kind of knocked you around. I think you get older, when you're young, you kind of think you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And you grow up and then life happens. And you're like, wait, life doesn't always go according to your plan. Like life has plans. The rustling is actually, I'm over here cutting a wig. I ain't going to lie. And I know. And I have my, what do you call it, the cape on.
Oh my God, I cannot. You are cracking me up. I cannot with you. I'm going to ask you one last question and let you get back to styling your wig, honey. That was pure comedy. How did it feel to play Nice Nasty? Because you always play the nice girl, the one that everybody wants to be besties with, and Jordan Sanders is not that chick.
Not at all. It felt great. I loved it. I mean, that was one of the things that was so attractive. I mean, it's a tough thing because you got to make her, you do have to want to root for her, but, she is crazy. She's not nice, but you have to be like, oh, Jordan's a monster, but you still have to like her. Not to want to work for her, but enough as a character to still want to root for her. And it was kind of great. I mean, I think that, you're an actress as well, and that's kind of like why we do stuff, to be able to be different things and portray different characters. Live out different roles. For me, I loved it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I know you have Shaft coming up. You got Black Monday. That's doing really well. And I'm hoping that I can get you in studio for one of those two projects in the future. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me. I wholeheartedly appreciate it.
Thank you, Carla. And then we'll do in studio for sure.
I adore you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll do it for Shaft.
I would have loved that. Go on and enjoy the rest of your day. Get that wig styled. I want pictures of what it looked like when you're done.
Oh, yeah. I'll show you the wig. It's one of my favorites.
Okay. Bye, sister.
Okay, bye.
Can I just tell you?
I love that.
Everybody always jokes about Regina Hall being that one actress that everybody wants to be her best friend and hang out with her and have a conversation with her. I was so excited to be able to make that a reality for myself and talk to her. And when I heard all that wrestling, I'm like, girl, what is that? She's like, I am cutting a wig. I can't even lie. I'm like, really? Bring it with you when you come for your interview. I'm going to need you to just bring that in.
She is a true Renaissance woman. You hear me?
I love her for it.
Yes.
I love her for it. But what I was saying off the air was Masai Martin is 14 years old. She's executive producing this film. Her parents are working for her. And she is carrying this movie, and Little is kind of like Big meets Working Women. Yeah, Working Girl.
Yeah.
Big meets Working Girl meets Freaky Friday. It's like all of those movies rolled into one, but flipped on its head with African American women.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Her and Issa Rae playing off of each other together is hilarious. And I can't remember this brother's name, but the brother that is on Star, the one who has the popping
Luke
pill,
James.
him.
Oh, yeah.
He's in there,
Yeah.
and he's got some scenes that are just pure
Yeah.
comedy. He is really great.
And when you
Yeah.
see that fun happening on the screen, don't you want to just reach out and go in it? 'Cause, I mean, you're a comedian too.
Yeah.
You're very
Yeah.
funny. I'm being
Thank
serious.
you.
But don't you want? Isn't that the proof that that's something that's real? It's pulling you in.
Yeah, it was funny. It's not. It's like I said. It's not going to change the world of cinema. It's not. But if you want to go have a good time and just laugh
And we
and
need
get your
that.
giggles on,
Yeah.
and in this day and age, sometimes you just need to laugh. It don't have to be
Yeah.
the greatest entertainment in the world, but just get your tee-hee on.
Yeah.
Little will be in theaters.
What was
on
that word?
Get your tee-hee.
Yeah, Tee.
Little will be in theaters on April 12th. There's a question for you, Kevin, before we move on
Yes.
in the chat room. Michael B. wanted to know, in finding work, do you think that being a known actor who's gay makes it harder for you to get bigger leading roles? I know when I look at Matt Bomer playing straight roles, it takes him out of the film.
You can answer that question 100 different ways. I think for myself, I didn't see work coming. Like I said, I didn't see it coming toward me. But that's a myth these days. People are people. We're opening the door and we're making the playing field bigger by being able to play all sorts of roles. And my sexuality, I wouldn't have been able to do this maybe 10, 15 years ago.
No, absolutely not.
But this is what I know.
Yeah.
This is what I'm closest
your
to in my
truth.
heart. It's my truth, and
Yeah.
I think the story like this for both Michael and myself was talking about something that was personal to us, and it touches other people because you've seen it. It's personal, and you are connected because it's real.
Yeah, honey, you better get them hankies ready because you're going to cry when you watch After
It's a
Forever.
2 Kleenex box.
I'm just
It's a
saying.
two-
Sure.
It's a 2 Kleenex
Box
box.
minimum?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
88 minutes of your
I
life.
love that.
You are going to be in the ugly cry. The snot would just be flowing. It's not going to be a pretty look. So, watch by yourself.
It's a This Is Us cry.
Oh, yeah.
Worse.
Yeah.
It's actually worse than a This Is
Oh.
Us cry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Straight up.
Thank you.
Straight up.
I take that as a compliment.
It's worse than a This Is Us cry. It really kind of is.
I know, right? The cry meter. You have the
You
cry.
got to put stuff on the cry meter scale.
I just want to say this about Marseille, though. I got a chance to talk to her really quickly as she was, zooming down the carpet at the Image Awards last weekend, and I was just so proud of her. And proud not because obviously she's got this production company and she's got this deal with Universal, but just also proud because when we talk about Black girl magic, you always think of older women who are doing things, but to see her start to actualize her dreams at 14,
I'm just
to
saying.
see her have that type of confidence. When I was 14, I was confident in myself, but I don't know if I had the confidence to take on Hollywood in this type of way. And I think that she's setting such high standards and goals for young girls and showing them that they can really do these types of things and not to be afraid and be so fearless.
I love that.
I was
I
really,
love
really
that.
proud of her, and I'm happy, and I know she's going to continue to be around for a really long
Absolutely.
time.
I totally agree with everything that you said. I look at that little girl and I'm just like, wow. When I was 14, I had pimples on my face.
Right.
And I
But she
was-
doesn't have noise around her right now because it's what that's all she knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, me at 16. I was like, let's just do it. But I think it was a different world back then too. Now she's rewarded for being fresh and being new. So
Yeah, cool. So the next film I wanted to bring up is this film called Amazing Grace. And it is a film that was filmed here in Los Angeles, and it was directed by Sidney Pollack back in the day. Sidney Pollack is no longer with us, and neither is Miss Franklin, which is a travesty in itself.
Yeah.
But the major thing that stuck out, two things that stuck out to me about this film. One is the fact that when she was living, she did everything she could to make sure it wasn't seen. She kept blocking it with legal action. And I was like, why did she not want people to see this? And I think it's because it wasn't finished. It wasn't a finished film. They pulled footage from all over the place because they didn't have it. It's not like when they filmed it, they were filming it for the purposes of it being a documentary. And it's not really a documentary as much as it is a concert.
Yeah.
It is a concert of her singing Amazing Grace and some other gospel tunes with the Reverend James Cleveland. That's what, and some other people in attendance like her dad and some other huge very high profile gospel stars at that time. But the thing that stuck out to me was that the legality of it all, and the fact that she didn't want it to be seen. But also the fact that Aretha Franklin is the only person in the world that I know of that could sing a song for 11 minutes.
Yes.
Because
Or more.
Amazing Grace was 11 minutes long.
Yeah.
She sang Amazing Grace.
She made it 11 minutes long.
It's 11 minutes long. Just that one song is 11 minutes long. She is the only person on earth, not anymore, but when she was here, the only person I know of that could do that.
Authentically.
And when you watch it, it reminded me of the churches that I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up in a community where my grandmother and my grandfather started the church on the steps of the Mississippi River. It was called Christ Community Temple. It was a Pentecostal church for people that don't know what the Church of God in Christ is, but that's what it was. And I grew up in that. So that's when I watched that film, it reminds me of those Sundays that I spent in church with my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, my cousins, and my aunts and my uncles. Like, it was home for me.
Yeah.
And it made me, it incited a visceral reaction in me when I watched it. Like, I began to cry because for me it had an emotional attachment. It also was very moving because it's like, it was just like... You don't hear people sing
Time
like
gone
that.
by.
It's
Yeah.
a different
effortless.
time. Yeah.
Her singing was effortless. Like, she wasn't. There are people, when you hear them twisting and turning and riffing on notes, you can tell that they're making a concerted effort to do so. That was not the case with Aretha Franklin. It really wasn't.
Well, she was very talented as a vocalist. I mean, she sang opera, she sang gospel, she could do arias, she could do pop, she could do R&B. So I'm not surprised to hear that she could sing a song for 11 minutes. Not to mention that that she grew up in the church. And as you mentioned, we can take one line and let that last for half an hour.
And by the
if
way,
the choir director says so.
Miss Carla
So-
Renata is a singer too,
Yes.
and I'm sure it pulled you in that way too.
Yeah,
Again.
yeah. And I, unlike you, I will say what I disagree with was it did seem unpolished and unfinished, but I appreciated also seeing James Cleveland in his, in this manner, because I do believe that a lot of people don't know who he is.
Yeah.
No,
Don't
and don't know
understand the
now.
magnitude of what he meant to gospel music and the relationship that they had and how he inspired her. And so I was happy to see that.
And her father inspired
and her father
him.
inspired him. So I was happy.
Cecil Franklin.
And for that reason, because I do think that what these types of films do is it helps people understand the importance of someone that everyone is talking about at that time. You have young kids, this younger generation who they know who Aretha Franklin is. They've heard R-E-S-P-E-C-T is there in the Walmart,
Right?
But they may not understand what she meant to music and why we called her,
The Queen of Soul. She
and so
was the
they'll go back
queen.
and Google, and they'll Google him as well, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was something. I really, 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 and I can't say really enough times, but I enjoyed it, and it broke my heart because I hated the fact that we were watching that now that she's not here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I really wish that she was here to celebrate how we feel about it with her here.
Yeah.
So that she could hear it. But I'm sure she
I
just
think
did
she
right.
probably already knows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Somebody said when the Queen, Michael B was like, when the Queen sang that aria at the Grammys, So what happened was, I think it was Luciano Pavarotti couldn't sing that day. And his voice was gone or something, and they needed a
stepped
substitute.
right in.
And Miss Thing stepped right in with no rehearsal. She had no rehearsal and sang that aria like she had been rehearsing that bad boy for weeks.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
in
like,
her. It was in her.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That is an artist. That is a true musical artist. They don't make them like that anymore.
I would use the word genius.
I would say
it's musical genius.
I would say gifted. I mean, we're saying the same words,
Yeah.
but it's just gifted.
Yeah, she really, really, truly
one
was.
of a kind.
I'll be interested to see what they do with that film that's coming out with Jennifer Hudson, because Miss Franklin did sanction Jennifer Hudson playing her, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Another film in the vein of music that I saw this week was called Teen Spirit, and it stars Elle Fanning.
Oh,
And it is an American Idolish type of film. She plays Violet, Elle plays Violet, and Violet's from this really small town, and she wants nothing more than to have a singing career. It shows the kind of behind the scenes of what happens when these kids go to audition for these types of shows. It's not all sunshine, roses, and rainbows and lollipops. There are side deals that are made. There are there's hating going on, like the other contestants are kind of shady.
Reality is not reality, folks.
So it's really interesting because, you know, these reality shows have taken over network television in terms of singing competitions, dancing competitions. The Housewife franchise is taking over television. Bachelor, all of that. So, but in Teen Spirit, Elle Fanning is doing all her own singing.
Nice.
She's doing all her own dancing.
Nice.
They probably should have kept that camera off of her when she was dancing because she was looking like the Rhythmless Nation a couple of times.
The Curvy has spoken.
She was looking like a little Rhythmless Nation a couple of times. But her singing, my mother said this, and I actually agree. When my mother and my brother went with me to the screening, and when they saw it, they were like, "Oh, she reminds me of Madonna back in the day," and she kind of does. Because remember back in the day when Madonna first came out, people were like, "Oh, she can't sing. Why is she doing that?"
Yeah.
You know, and she had that little tiny, teeny voice, but there was something about her when you would watch her, like she was compelling to watch. You didn't necessarily care about what she sounded like. Yeah. You just wanted to watch her because she was outrageous.
Which sister? Is this the middle sister or the youngest?
I'm
the
not
three
sure.
girls? Aren't there three of them?
I don't know. I know there's Dakota, and I know there's her. And I don't.
There's one more. I don't know where
there might be one more out, child. I don't know which one. I don't know nothing about
it's a Fanning.
It's a Fanning, but it's a Fanning sighting. But that film, it was a little okay. So, as entertaining as the whole reality show situation is, it's a little slow, and it kind of doesn't really pick up until they get into the reality show portion of the film. And her energy doesn't pick up until she does this song called Don't Kill My Vibe. And it's this whole, like, you know, on American Idol when they do the whole finale and it's a full-on production, Don't Kill My Vibe is the song that she sings for her finale thing. And then you learn, you know, in the credits, and I won't say what happens, you learn in the rolling credits afterwards. So you got to stay for the credits, whether or not she wins the competition. Because if you don't stay for the credits, you're not going to know.
Clever.
You just won't know.
Keep them there. Keep them there.
Yeah, I saw some reviews about this already. People seem to be underwhelmed. You gave it more of a spirited review. People
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, similarly, there seemed to be some critique of her movement throughout, but she, you know, her singing skills were up to par, and I think that's why they cast her initially, because they knew that she could at least sing and was going to be able to pull off those types of performances. And then, you know, we get her a choreographer, and, you know, but everybody can't always pull off choreography.
No, and and her mentor in the film is like this drunken former opera singer who's teaching her how to breathe. Like, it's a lot going on. And at the end of the day, like I said, if you like American Idol, then you'll like this movie because it's in that lane of things. But, you know, I would agree with a lot of people that have watched it that I was underwhelmed as well. But, you know, I liked watching her do that Don't Kill My Vibe kind of joint.
I like her, though. Of the sisters we're talking about, Dakota, I like Elle. I've actually become a fan of hers over Dakota. Talented. She can do these nuanced performances. You know, she can do a film like this, but then she can also take you and do something a little bit dark and more emotional. I think she's very talented. So I like her a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed her quite a bit. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened this morning. So I went to because I just have to get it out there in a little bit of time I got left. So I went to the Avengers Endgame press conference this morning, and I had a conversation with a foreign gentleman behind me because he was whining about the fact that he didn't get a chance to interview Brie Larson for Captain Marvel because she specifically requested that female journalists be invited, because we oftentimes don't get invited. Those kinds of junkets, they invite a bunch of, you know, nerd film geeks, comic book geeks that are mostly middle-aged white men, and that's the truth of the situation. That's not me calling anybody out. That's not me being mean or nasty or shady. That's what it is. So he's behind me, whining, and I actually had had enough. I'd had enough, and I was like, okay.
Slowly she turned.
I'd had enough, and I was like, listen, I'm like, you guys get invited to everything. I'm like, we hardly ever get a chance. So what's wrong with her? I'm like, people always do this when it's a woman speaking up. When it's a woman director, if she, very straightforward says what she wants, then she's a bitch.
Yeah.
Or she's difficult. Or a diva. Because Brie Larson wants to invite women to her press conference, then you're feeling slighted and left out. Like, y'all get to do everything. Calm down and go sit in a corner somewhere.
Right.
But he and I went in, and at one point I got really loud, and I saw people staring at me. I'm like, okay, I better shut up because this is going to turn ugly real quick. And he was like, oh, I'm not white, I'm European. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're white and you're a man. So I don't care what country you come from, you're still a white man.
Exactly.
Calm down.
You get double dose of privilege.
Don't get Carla going. Don't get her mad. Don't get her.
I was not the one. I was like, what are you doing? So no. But I just want to say that even in the press, so having said that, even in the press conference, the moderator kept calling on men. There were lots of women that had their hands up. He never called on one woman. I don't know if he couldn't see or if he just saw hands. I don't know. But he kept calling on men. And Brie literally was like, there's a girl. Call on the girl. There's a girl. Like, literally, she had to do that.
Yeah.
And I was just like... and you could feel the air get sucked out of the room when she did that. I am not mad at Brie Larson for calling it out and saying what she thinks and standing up for girls, because we don't get the same privileges as guys sometimes. Jasmine, No,
I was going to say, quick story. I only got invited, I'm certain of it because of the timing of it all, but I got invited to the set in Louisiana for Captain Marvel, and it was shortly after she made the comments that she did at the Crystal and Lucy Awards, and was very adamant about the fact that she was tired of doing interviews with white male critics. She was like, where are my female critics? And so Disney made it a point to invite women of color even, down to the set so that she could have, also that type of conversation, and that we could experience the set. And traditionally, I don't know that I've ever even gotten an invite to a Disney set, let alone a lot of the times the junkets, to be quite honest. And I've been doing this for some time, but I do think because she spoke out and spoke up, they are now making sure that they diversify the press that get invites. And I made sure to give her a thank you card. And I forged a few names here and there because wanted to make sure that it wasn't just me. I come as, what is this saying? I come as representing 1,000.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Maya Angelou.
Yes. I come representing a lot more than just myself. And I wanted her to understand that I could stand there boldly and look her in the face and say that when I give you this is from me and Carla Renata and Shamika and all of us
and from
other
Kevin.
Women and Kevin.
And Kevin Spirtas.
I'll tell you what.
Because
we appreciate what you're doing.
And I think this is great because After Forever has been a very big hit with gay straight women in their mid-50s, because it's sort of the same trajectory.
It is.
That people have. They lose something in the middle of their life, and most women lose a husband or.
Yeah.
But I congratulate you both for that, and you will always be welcome to my junkets.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Do I get an invite too?
But I said both of you. You will always be welcome.
I said you will always be welcome to my junkets.
That's plural.
Yes.
Y'all are pure comedy up in here. Oh my goodness. We are almost out of time. This went so fast.
So fast.
I love it
we need 2 hours.
I love it when it goes fast. Let me check the chat room real quick.
Check it.
Michael B says he's not a fan of reality TV, but he did love The Masked Singer. Gladys Knight as the bee turned the ish out.
Oh.
And Yasna was like, "Oh, I'm not a fan of reality, but she's not fan of reality about singers, but not a fan of reality shows, period." Okay. But she did say that she loved Vox Lux. I loved Vox Lux, too.
I did like Vox Lux.
I was kind of mad that
what?
Vox Lux was this film with Natalie Portman.
Oh, yes.
I loved that movie. I was kind of
too.
salty that her and Rafferty?
Yeah.
Raffi. I was kind of sad that they didn't get more love than they did.
Yeah.
I was a big champion of Vox Lux.
It came out during award season, so I think it kind of got
lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, it got lost in the shuffle.
I was kind of sad about that,
sure.
but I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for us.
It is.
Why is Kevin crying?
Because that's it.
Kevin is crying.
Oh, God.
So before we get off the air, where can everyone find you, Jazz?
You can find me first and foremost at hiphollywood.com. Go to the website. You know, I'm covering stories daily, pop culture, entertainment, and then film, because I am a film critic. And then you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, the same name, at Jazzakai, Jazzakai. Yeah, and you can see what I'm liking, see what I'm not liking,
Boom.
all of that good stuff.
And Kevin?
AfterForeverTheSeries.com, hashtag AfterForeverTheSeries, at AFTheSeries on Twitter, and Keven Spirtas, at Keven Spirtas.
Okay, and as usual, you can find me, your girl, Carla Renata, aka The Curvy Critic, across all social media platforms at The Curvy Critic. You can also see all of the films that we discuss here on Black Hollywood Live over at thecurvyfilmcritic.com. I will not physically be here next week, but I have a special guest in studio for you. Miss Valerie Pettiford will be here.
I want to be her guest.
my
Miss
God, I
Valerie
need to do a
Pettiford
high
will be
kick.
here.
Get out. Wait, that's
Yes,
it. We're going to all be
yes,
back.
yes.
We're all going to rush the studio.
Valerie
Yes.
will be here talking about Fosse because that comes on FX on April 9th. So she will be here because she worked with Fosse and I worked with Gwen Verdon for Sweet Charity. So stay tuned next Sunday. Please come back and watch that with Valerie Pettiford and myself talking all things Fosse here at The Curvy Critic. So until next time, you guys, see you later.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
On behalf of our BHL staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in to Black Hollywood Live, the world's first digital broadcast network devoted entirely to urban entertainment and pop culture. Check out our Black Hollywood Live YouTube page for even more great programming and amazing content, and be sure to subscribe and like our channel when you do. I'm your BHL host, Nakia Monet, and you can find me on all social media at Kiki Boom Boom or at Black Hollywood Live. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.